Once again, hello everyone. I'm Kevin Kiley. I'm the Communications Director for the UW Clinical Trials Institute. And I want to welcome you to today's research forum, which, as you can see on your screen, is focused on Wisconsin's recent federal designation as a regional biohealth tech hub. We're pleased to welcome Kurt Zimmerman and Kirsty Shavy from the Office of Biohealth Industry Partnerships at the UW School of Medicine and Public Health. They're going to tell us more about the UW's key role in the Tech Hub effort and what this exciting designation means for Wisconsin. You've probably seen this in the news. Pretty big deal for all of us. As we move along, please feel free to add questions to the chat or the Q&A section, and we'll address those at the end of the session. I will hand it off to Kurt and Kirsty.
All right. Thank you very much, Kevin. Thanks, everyone, for joining us today, and to the Clinical Trials Institute in the School of Medicine and Public Health for hosting this. This is really one of my favorite topics to talk about because we really liked winning. That's the main reason. And that this is so good for Wisconsin and for people in Wisconsin. So I'll go through really the nuts and bolts of what the Wisconsin Biohealth Tech Hub is, what the Economic Development Administration's Regional Tech Program is, and the projects that are being funded under this designation. We will start actually with the designation that you see here. This started in 2019, our path to this designation. The Brookings Institute, in one of its assessments, designated Madison and Milwaukee, certainly among the very top cities, regions in the country, with potential to be a major growth center, meaning they had the raw materials to really be globally known in very specific technology-based areas. So as early as 2019, in partnership with BioForward, with GE Healthcare, with a lot of community partners, the School of Medicine and Public Health started this discussion about somehow linking the corridor between Madison and Milwaukee, whether it would be a corridor, whether it would be a hub, whether it would be a nexus. It would be something that really merged the convergent strengths of the two regions into one recognized strategy. And those initial conversations were so important, and they really have led us to where we are today. Those discussions were happening already when the CHIPS and Science Act was passed in 2022. This legislation is focused on really investing in U.S. regions in key technology focus areas. And as part of the CHIPS and Science Act, the Regional Tech Hub program was also funded. And again, the goal here was to support regional planning around specific technology areas that could become global leaders, realistically could move into positions of global leadership in specific fields. States were required to compete for these designations as consortia of partners. And so the first phase, which was phase one, was involved no money, but you earned the designation and you earned the right to compete for funding. So phase one, it was really an inventory of the existing strengths and the case that we could make as a region to show the collaboration, to show the partnership, and really the raw materials that would make us eligible for future funding. Phase two were specific project proposals for funding that gave us an opportunity to show how we would move into that position of leadership if given the chance. So what is the Wisconsin Biohealth Tech Hub? It's actually kind of a complicated question, but the entity, if people are looking for an entity, this is really what it is, which is it's a consortium of partners, as you can see here, 18 statewide organizations representing industry, representing economic development, or academic institutions, organizations focused on entrepreneurship like Forward Biolabs, the University Research Park, workforce development groups, but really a diverse coalition of partners who worked together for well over a year to get us to this place. I will say, honestly, one of the things as we go forward, you'll see that we're very, very proud of is that the state's two medical schools, the School of Medicine and Public Health and the Medical College of Wisconsin, really are a foundation, are an incredibly important part of this proposal. And it speaks to, I think, the very translational nature of the missions of medical schools and the importance of community engagement and outreach that we contributed. But all of these partners came together, and we're extremely grateful to the leadership of BioForward. They were the lead consortium member. They submitted the proposal that we all put together collectively. So this is the entity that leads the Tech Hub. And within this consortium, there are 6 organizations that are leading specific technology projects, and I'll talk about them a little bit later. The timeline, as I said, this began for us actually much earlier in 2019, but it was May 15th of 2023 that the EDA actually issued the notice of funding opportunity for phase 1. And we had until August 15th to organize a coalition, get our proposal together, and submit it. And in addition to the consortium members that you just saw, there was another executive committee consisting of 65 statewide representatives that we met with, I think, bi-weekly to give them updates on the progress that we were making, and also to make sure that the state had an opportunity to really get behind our proposal for Biohealth. On October 23rd, we received news from the Economic Development Administration that Wisconsin was one of 31 regions in the country to receive the phase 1 designation. And that made us eligible to apply for up to $75 million in funding. EDA gave us some very early feedback in the days following this announcement. And the most exciting bit of feedback, I think, came directly from Eric Smith, who's the head of the Tech Hubs program for EDA. And he described the academic and industrial partnerships that were a huge part of the proposal. The grade he gave us was an A+++, and described it as an almost unfair competitive advantage, given Wisconsin's leadership in that area. And that's really a great source of pride for all the partners here, that we were able to show the importance of translational research and Wisconsin as really a center of translational research and collaboration. We worked very hard for a very short amount of time to get our proposals submitted. As a coalition, we put together 6 priority areas for funding. So there were 6 projects submitted. This is something that I think is important to clarify. When people ask about the funding that was received, it wasn't just a block of funding for Wisconsin to distribute as it liked. We had to submit 6 individual proposals, 3 technology proposals, workforce development, and entrepreneurship, as well as a governance proposal. And EDA could fund all of it, could fund some of it, could fund none of it. They had complete flexibility. So our purpose and our mission was really to tie those projects together as tightly as we could. On July 2nd of 2024, we were notified that Wisconsin was one of 12 out of those 31 that was designated a phase 2 recipient of $49 million. I'll go into the funding a little bit later. Initially, EDA planned to fund 7 phase 2 recipients. They ended up funding a total of 12. So everyone had to take an even budget cut, but I really can't say enough about EDA's process that was extremely credible and extremely fair, and ultimately made sure all of our projects could completely be implemented. October, just a few weeks ago, funds were released, and we're now off and running working on our projects. These are the 12 areas that were funded. You will see there are a variety of different areas. You'll also see, for example, in the South, there were 2 projects that involved multiple states. We chose to sort of move forward, as most states did, but you can see the distribution of these centers and how really this program did target the Midwest. We really were highlighted here as a region that they wanted to see significant growth in. The total funding, again, we received $49 million from the Economic Development Administration. And in addition to that, we have an additional $32 million in investments. That 32 million is broken up between three sources, one of which was $7.5 million in matching money from the state of Wisconsin. And we're extremely proud of the fact that in a very short amount of time, we were able to put this proposal together, advocate for this funding from the state, and get, by the time we submitted our proposal in February, have the funding approved and signed off on by Governor Evers with unanimous bipartisan support. Really unique achievement. I really want to, again, acknowledge the work of BioForward here, because it was their team, in partnership in particular with GE Healthcare, that delivered the message not just during this condensed time frame, but year round for more than 30 years. BioForward has really been beating the drum of the potential, of the success of our biohealth industry, the rewards of our biohealth industry. So when we came in what was admittedly a very rushed timeline, the message was already out there. We just really needed to make our case. In addition to that state funding, consortium members committed a total of $21 million, and we have an additional $3.4 million that's been committed from various industry partners. So you can see, ultimately, we ended up very close to the $75 million. But again, there were only 2 states who received more from EDA than we did. So we were certainly at the top of our game here. What are the projects that are funded? There are specifically 5 projects that are really focused on our vision of biohealth as a path to personalized medicine. There is a 6th project, which is a governance project. We really were very unique as a state in terms of how volunteer-driven this effort was. And even EDA suggested you might want to ask for some funds to hire some project managers, maybe someone who could work with grants and things like that. So that's the 6th project. But the 5 main projects are described here. And really, again, this is our path to personalized medicine. You see 3 technology projects that are very closely linked together and led by UW-Madison, the Medical College of Wisconsin, and GE Healthcare. We have our lab to market, which is entrepreneurship and innovation to commercialization, and then our workforce development. That's led by Madison College and Milwaukee Area Technical College. This is the picture that tells the story of project number 1, which is the Wisconsin Health Data Hub. This was a really exciting project for us. It is a project that is designed to create an aggregate of health data from the health systems that you see here, as well as other participating partners. But we really felt this picture said it all. We viewed this as sort of our drop the mic moment in terms of what we could accomplish. You can see the participating systems, UW, Marshfield, MCW, and Aurora, and how on the right side of the screen, by bringing together all of these systems into one aggregated health data hub, we really are able to put together an extremely valuable picture of the state of Wisconsin. And companies and researchers will be able to capture and collect and work with this aggregated data to really accelerate the development of their projects. There were almost every state that submitted in our category in the biohealth space submitted a proposal for some form of a data hub, and we're very, very proud of the fact that this was the only one that was funded. It is platform agnostic. It is designed to grow. And as you'll see very quickly, the other projects tie directly into this, because not all members of our state's population have the same access to healthcare and would be represented, obviously, in the Health Data Hub. And to address that, we have our 2nd project, which is the CareScan Mobile Early Detection. This is led by our colleagues at the Medical College of Wisconsin. And this is really designed to address the concept of data missingness, entire populations that would be absent from other forms of data that we're putting together. And this model that we're using is to, first of all, really bridge and define the access gaps through community engagement, looking at where specifically these populations are that are not represented, and then literally taking the CareScan vans to points of need that can do all of the screening in one place, identifying and filling the missing data, providing a source of early detection, and again, infrastructure that's really ready for market entry. and just absolutely fantastic leadership from our colleagues at the Medical College of Wisconsin, and recognition of their leadership in this type of work and community engagement with this project. The third project is led by GE Healthcare. This is really an image-guided therapy kit that is that is really designed to help us drive more patients to personalized solutions and therapies. And that requires data-driven workflows. And the value of this project that EDA really recognized is that it ties in completely. You can see how these projects are interlocked all around the idea of biohealth data as a fuel, really, for research and product development. But this project leads us to the doorstep of what we hope will be phase 3, which would be much more significant future funding that would potentially, at least in Wisconsin's case, be dependent on our ability to make the case for the demand of these projects. And that's the data that will be collected in this project. In addition to this, we have really excellent programs in workforce development and entrepreneurship. The workforce development initiatives are led by the Madison Area Technical College and Milwaukee Area Technical College, really focusing on expansion of certificate programs, apprenticeships, and really skills-based training to include as inclusive as possible of talent pipelines that are really aligned with demands of employers. And similarly, Forward Biolabs and BioForward are leading our entrepreneurship efforts that will really focus about expanding co-working space, lab space, attraction of investment, and de-risking of projects. So those projects work together to really form at least the first phase, the first sort of iteration of the Wisconsin Biohealth Tech Hub. I want to speak for just a second to what a catalyzing impact this has had, and in a number of ways. I mean, if there's anything that I think is a common thread on every single slide that I've shared with you today, it's the fact that the common thread here is dialogue, starting very early on with the dialogue we had with communities, with partners, learning about, when you look at the pages of the Brookings Institute report, and it describes what a regional tech hub, what a growth center looks like. It doesn't look the same to everyone. Not everyone looks at it in the same way. So the dialogue that has taken place has been, I think, very helpful. And even in our consortium, which again was 18 members working at breakneck speed to get these proposals submitted, without the trust and dialogue that was evident throughout that process, we never could have done it. We really never could have done it. And since the announcement of these designations, we've already seen some very specific examples of how we've been able to have additional dialogue that really puts Wisconsin on the map. At UW-Madison, we were very honored and privileged to host the Tribal Council of the Sokagon Chippewa community last month, who reached out to us to learn more about biohealth and personalized medicine after the initial designation was made. This was the first time in UW-Madison's 175 years that we hosted a full tribal council on campus. And the dialogue about clinical research, about health data sharing, was really something that was fairly unprecedented and has been a very rewarding and we hope very helpful to SCC. Similarly, last month, the School of Medicine and Public Health and BioForward hosted the National Security Commission on Emerging Biotechnology, who had reached out to us to get feedback on a report that will be published in 2025, focusing on key national security issues relating to biotechnology. That meeting, it's exactly the type of meeting I love the most, where it's one of our industry partner, offering different, sometimes divergent, sometimes aligned perspectives, but really showing the expertise that exists here in Wisconsin around this topic. And the dialogue that took place that has resulted in really some exciting additional new conversations with the National Security Commission and increasing recognition of the state of Wisconsin as really a source of expertise and guidance for the actions of the federal government in this space. I think this, again, this what we think of as a catalyzing impact has really been very exciting, and I think it bodes very well for the future here in Wisconsin. The other things that I would just want to say, that's, again, been a very high-level summary of the Biohealth Tech Hub, and I'm hoping we have a good number of questions to continue this discussion. But as I said, I want to first of all, once again, thank BioForward for the leadership that they showed throughout this process. It really has been incredibly important that the conversations that take place around our industry, around this field, really ultimately make their way to the offices of our legislative partners and to policymakers. And so I hope many of you, we can see you next week at the Biohealth Summit, which is probably going to be the largest in BioForward's history, where again, we'll continue a very valuable dialogue on these topics. I want to also, certainly within the School of Medicine and Public Health, really thank all the collaborators, all of the partners the Office of Biohealth Industry Partnerships works with, the Clinical Trials Institute, the ISMUS Project, UW-Health, of course, who really support our effort to make the research and the expertise at UW-Madison in this biohealth space available to as much of the state as possible. So that's a very high-level overview here, and I'm very glad to continue the discussion and take any questions with everyone here today.
Kurt, there's a couple questions that have come in. The first one's from Sue Carlson. Maybe if you want to go back to the map from Jamal's project, she's wondering if we're going to be able to engage at all with the 3 counties that are not covered by the 4 health systems. And maybe that's a question for Jamal, but I don't know if you can speak to it.
So we're certainly trying to do that. We're trying to do that right now. And again, if they're not initially covered, we certainly are hoping that through the MCW project, we'll be able to at least lay some groundwork there for some more.
Okay, next question. If there is additional funding from the EDA, will there be additional technology projects that will be proposed?
So the EDA has additional funding in a number of different areas, a lot in entrepreneurship, a lot in capital formation, things like that. So some of their funding is certainly already very available to us as a designated tech hub in specific areas. I think future funding opportunities, for example, in phase 3 and things like that, that would be in technology, would certainly be available to us to compete for projects that are much, much larger in scale than what we have here. You know, one of the things that we've really talked about as potential for a next step is something in the area of distribution of radiopharmaceuticals. You know, a lot of the core products and technologies in the supply chain that makes image-guided therapy even possible, therapies even possible. So certainly, I think for the large dollar projects, they would be specific to technology.
Okay, and one more question here, but maybe some others will come in, or if folks want to unmute themselves or raise their hand, feel free to do that too. But the other question is, how were the consortium members determined?
So early on, the consortium members were just groups that stepped forward to participate in this, who could either offer commitments, specific commitments to get the ball rolling. And then I mentioned there was a 65-person sort of executive committee that had been assembled by the Wisconsin Economic Development Corporation. And organizations could basically propose to them their participation in the consortium. That's how that process came about. And from there, also, EDA had specific criteria. We were somewhat limited. They strongly recommended we not go above, I think it was 12 to 15. So we're a little bit above that. and we really had to have representation from the private sector, which is very well represented in this consortium, our academic research institutions, workforce development, government agencies, things like that. I do think as the health tech hub evolves, we might see some changes in composition around its needs. But for where we are right now, it's actually been a really excellent sort of distribution across the two regions of expertise that's been able to meet the needs that we've had to get this ball rolling.
I'm not seeing any other questions in the chat. Kevin, am I missing anything?
I'm not seeing anything else either. Maybe a few seconds of uncomfortable silence here and see if anybody has anything to add. Last chance, everybody.
It looks
Okay.
like Sue Carlson raised her hand.
Oh. Sue, do you have a question? Or was that the question you submitted through chat? Oh, she can't unmute. Oh, I'm sorry about that. Let's see. One second here. Okay. Should be good. Sorry about that.
No problem, Mike. I just saw your unmute. So I was just really wondering, this is such a big project and UW seems to be leading it. So I'm wondering what the impact will be on the university's staffing, essentially. Will there be jobs added? Will there be, will it be part of new training programs, anything along those lines, to try to move the university forward at the same time they're moving forward the tech hub?
So, I mean, BioForward really is the lead entity here. I mean, we are
Okay.
one of the consortium members, but certainly, I think all of the entities that were leads for their various projects. So UW is leading the first project, the Health Data Hub, and certainly there are positions funded to make that happen. Absolutely, and I think for all of the projects there were staffing needs to make it happen. So none of the entities are sort of taking this on themselves. I mean, they've received funding for support, but certainly across all of these areas, our goal is to not just launch these projects, but really do so with an eye towards a stream of new jobs. I think we're projecting 30,000 new jobs over the next decade. And also make sure we have the infrastructure in place to support and retain that workforce.
Okay, thank you. And then do you see any engagement in, like, at the university at least? I know you talked about it with workforce development with the technical schools. Will there be any engagement, say, with the data science programs or any of the health or related biotech programs that could be used to develop the staff, the people who could do these jobs?
Mm-hmm. So that's part of the workforce development project. The EDA's criteria really was focused on workforce development at more of the technical college level. That's really what they were funding, was that workforce for maybe people without necessarily bachelor's degrees and things like that. So a lot of our programs here, we use them a lot. We reference them a lot in phase one to show a lot of the projects here programs here at UW-Madison that already exist and could support this type of growth. But that was part of phase one. The new programming that was funded in phase two was really at this technical college level.
Okay, thank you.
And you know, Sue, that the master's degree in biotechnology got a
Yes,
great
I do.
mention in phase one. So
All right. Thank you.
thank you.
Kurt, there's another question from Aaron, maybe somewhat similar to what you just addressed, but are there ways for aligned people or organizations to get involved, either overall or with the specific project?
Yes, absolutely. And I'm sorry, we can send this link out. There's a link on BioForward's website that directly addresses this. If you have an interest in participating, in learning more, seeing how you could collaborate with any of this, you can contact them directly. But certainly the purpose of this is to really, as I've said all along, really create dialogue about how we can align the resources that we have to push this forward and meet the objectives that we have here. So we can send that link out to everyone. I think we can, Kevin. Okay. We can send that link out to everyone. And as I said, there'll be great opportunities. I'm assuming there are still slots open for the Biohealth Summit next week. We'll be hosting representatives from the EDA there who will be speaking directly about this. So there are a lot of chances for dialogue, to learn more, to see how to participate. And you can also just contact me directly and I'll hook you up.
Not seeing other questions, just a nice comment from Wendy saying, thank you for this overview, and I look forward to volunteering at the Biohealth Summit next week and meeting many great leaders in this space. So we look forward to seeing you, Wendy. Come say hi for sure.
Thank you for volunteering, Wendy, and we'll see you there. Going to be really, I think, the largest in BioForward's history. So it's terrific, terrific opportunity.